A tool review? Why the heck not? Hello, and welcome back to my channel and my shop. As promised, I'm going to do a tool review. I rarely do tool reviews, but I want to do one of this. This is the Ryobi track saw. It's 18 volt plus, or part of their 18 volt plus system. I'm in that. We know that I'm in that ecosystem. What I had was this. From this picture, you can see is a track saw from TrueTrack. What that does is it adapts an existing circular saw to a set of tracks. It limits depth of cut. I can't cut as deep as I can. Could not cut as deep as I can with this. It also does not allow for angle cuts, where of course this one does. And all track saws today do that. Back when I bought that, it was, I think, the late 90s or early aughts, somewhere around there. Track saws were kind of a new thing and extremely expensive. But I think I paid about $40 less for my track saw than that one on the website, and that was like $289. And that was a lot of money back then. It's still a lot of money now. So let's go through what you get first. So, of course, you get a track saw. Yes, it's made of plastic, but like a lot of tools today, there's a lot of plastic involved. There's a lot of cast aluminum in here too. This is a very robust piece of gear, considering it's plastic. Now, caveat right off the front. I'm not sure this would work as a daily use, all day use professional saw. I'm not a professional, so I don't know. It may, some people are probably using it as such, but I'm not sure. But definitely works for the hairy homeowner of the small shop. You get a clamp, a single clamp, and it's a slide clamp with the adjustable clamping screw. It rings like a bell, and it slides into the bottom of the track. You get two 27-inch tracks. Yeah, 27-inch. The clamp slides in to the bottom here, so you can clamp to your workpiece. And you also get the two joining bars with the clamps. And this is great, except right off the bat, you can see a problem here. If you're just going to do 48-inch cuts, this is great because it's, 27 and 27 is 54 inches. But to do an 8-foot cut on a piece of plywood, you need to buy 2 more tracks. So I bought the track kit. It also comes with its own connector bars. I'm going to do a little bit of a side review on these in a minute. So I have, now I can do 8-foot pieces, but my original kit came with 2 52-inch tracks, so I could do everything. Well, you get 1 clamp. Now, the rubber foam on these grips pretty good on the wood, but if you're working with some flexible wood, you really need to clamp it down at both ends. So I got a second clamp. Now, these were not available at Home Depot or on the Ryobi parts place, but I got a tip off of Reddit, a Ryobi tool subreddit, that if you contact them on Facebook, if they have these in stock, they'll send you one. So now I have 2 clamps. And I really believe that you need to clamp your tracks down, even though they do grab for quick cuts maybe, but you really need to clamp your tracks down if you're doing a long piece. So let's get into the saw just a little bit. The saw, of course, has its, comes down like it's supposed to, and you can set the depth. I'll show you that in a minute. Comes with a riving knife, not riving knife. I have an issue with that, even though they're great to have, but I do have a personal issue with that and all. Not a safety issue, a use issue, and I'll go into that in detail as well. It also allows you to cut angles, up to 48 degree angles. So let's take a closer look at the other side and what you get there. Let me get the riving knife thing out of the way right off the bat before we go more in depth in the tool. Having a riving knife is a really great idea, especially if you're cutting long boards that may shift due to stress relief or whatever. My issue is when I break down sheet goods, I lay out 2 or 3 2x4s on 2 of my sawhorses, put the sheet good on top of that, and start breaking out the pieces. The problem is the riving knife stops on the 2x4s. You can't get past them. Now, yeah, I can take the riving knife off, which I'll do right now. Show you. Tighten that down a little bit so it doesn't vibrate out. But I have no place to store this. They don't supply you with a place to store the riving knife. Small thing, I know. So now I can make my cuts, and I won't bump against this tip. Won't bump up against the 2x4s. Now that I got that out of the way, let's start with this position switch, which is right here. You see it's with relation to the tool, it's right here. Right now it's set on the vertical position, which is for cutting. We just see a circular saw, and the blade comes down and does what it's supposed to do. This position right here is for tools. Whenever you need to lock the saw into a position for accessing the Allen screws, now it's locked in position so you can get to the saw screw and, like I showed earlier, the riving knife screw. Now the last position, right here, is for scoring. So when you go down to that position, you can see how little it is going below the surface of the saw itself. That's for scoring work. When you're going to use the tools, get down the tool position, there is a tab right here, kind of hard to see, and you spin this saw till you get it. I know I got to get it there so it locks up. There it is. So that locks up. That's so you can lock the blade up when you're accessing the screw to remove the blade. Get in camera. So basically it's right there. Now let's talk about the angle adjustment, which is your adjustment is here, and it's 0 to 45 or 0 to 48 depending on how you throw this little switch here. So you have to loosen both sides, and when it's in this little switch is in this position right here, see it, then you can go over to 45 and they'll stop. But if you flip this switch over like that, so see it's going in that direction, now it'll stop at 48 degrees. Now this does not have any kind of teeth to lock it in position when you get to where you want to go. So you basically have to go set it by the needle and lock it in place at both ends, and now it's ready to go. This is adjustable in case it gets out of adjustment. You can adjust this needle so it with a precision scale so that you can get the angles correct. This is the depth cut. Now this does have little gear teeth on it, here and here. So when you get to, let's say, 1/2 inch and you screw it down, it locks it in. It basically locks it at 1/2 inch, and it's not going anywhere. So when I loosen these things. So now, when I trigger it, it drops 1/2 inch below the bottom of the blade. So that's that. Now I normally just leave this all the way down, like that. Now let's go to mounting it onto the track itself. There's 2 basic adjustments when you're mounting it on the track. One is this little screw fixture here, that has a little tooth that pops out and locks it into the track, and I'll demonstrate that, so the saw won't tip over if it's in the track. Then you have to adjust it so that it is not going to slip around side to side, and that's what these adjustments are here. This adjusts, and you can't see it. There it is. See it right there? That allows you to put pressure on the track and lock this into a position that's going to remain straight. It's not going to wobble around. The downside of this adjustment here is in order to do the back end, which has the same adjustment, you have to flip the saw over and get to it. It's right here. Minor inconvenience. So let's mount it up on a track. So what I'm going to do is, I've loosened this little bitty up here, pulled it in. Now I just drop this down onto the track, get that one out of the way, and then pull it out, push it in, and that puts the tooth underneath a groove that's extruded into the track right here. Now, the saw won't flip over, but it may wobble around. See, it moves a little bit there? So now you have to get this adjustment, which is push that piece toward the saw, that little tab. Oh, I can't see it again. See that little tab? Push that toward the saw and snug that down. Now the front end is nice and snug. But again, to do the rear end, you have to flip this over, and there it is again. I'll loosen it up, and there it is. You move that back and forth. You push this toward the saw and tighten this down, and now it's snug in the back. So now it won't flip over on you, and it's going to remain straight in the track as you cut. And you can adjust it if you want it slightly loose or not. So, and to remove it from the saw, from the track, is very easy. You just tip the saw this way and pull it away, and it comes out. Now, let's talk about the tracks themselves. As I said earlier, the rubber that holds the piece of track onto the wood works pretty good, but you've really got to keep this clean. This rubber piece here is your cutting line, and you basically have to do a preliminary cut, set it up on a piece of wood, because this comes oversized, and it cuts this piece off right where the blade's going to be, and that becomes your measurement line where your cuts are going to be. The thing I don't like about these is they were not mounted very well. This one's already starting to peel off. These are replaceable, so I can get new ones. I shouldn't have to on a new tool. Also, these were mounted some of these were mounted in such a way that they kind of overlap out of the rabbet that's extruded for it, and it's kind of bumpy, but that's okay. When I get new ones, I'll put them in correctly. So that's the track, and as I demonstrated earlier, the clamp slides right into the extruded portion of the track right there, so you can clamp to a piece of wood. It also has an extruded place right there. And then flip it over, screw it down, and clamp it onto your workpiece, and you're really good to go. And I will be adamant about clamping both ends of your track when you're using it on a long piece of plywood or wood. The manual is also pretty good. It's got a whole lot of verbiage up front, but in the back of it, there's the diagrams and everything you need to learn how to use the tool and all the adjustments you can make and how things work and all that kind of happy horse hockey. Now, in summary, it actually has a lot of power. It doesn't really see the wood in, when it's cutting for the most part. It cuts deeper than the one I got from TrueTrack, which, like I said, is an adapter system for a track they make, extruded track. And you basically take your circular saw and you attach their base to it, do all the alignments to it, and it's ready to go. Construction is pretty good. It's a mix of aluminum and plastic, which is all pretty strong stuff for my uses. So it really works well for me. Now, the downside, again, the riving knife, which I've taken off and put on my bench. The way I break down material, it just doesn't work. I can't use a riving knife on it. I don't even know where I would use a riving knife for this, really, unless I'm doing long linear cuts on wood that's I know is going to move due to internal pressures. But I don't see myself doing that much, because most of what I break down with the saw is plywood, which doesn't really have a whole lot of internal stresses. The tracks, very functional. They are functional. They could improve the rubber side the blade goes on and make sure it gets installed correctly. But You really do need 2 clamps to use this correctly and safely. When I was using it on some 1/4-inch plywood, plywood was bowing a little bit in places and the track would move, so I would clamp it down with the 1 clamp I have, and now I have 2 clamps. The big bugaboo for me, the thing is, it only comes with 2 27-inch tracks. This is something I don't understand the thinking here. It should either come with 2 50-inch or 52-inch tracks, or come with 4 27-inch tracks right out of the box. You're stuck with doing only 4-foot crosscuts and nothing else. So you really have to go buy 2 more tracks and another clamp. Well, I actually got the second clamp for free, so I can't complain about that. So that's kind of it. Any questions you might have, put them in the comment section. So far, I'm happy with it. I have a large project coming up that I think I featured in my last video, the beginning of that. I will be doing some large plywood piece breakdowns. And I will, in the video of building that piece of furniture, I will show me using this and clamping it up and doing all the measurements and everything. So that's it. Everything's on 1 battery system. I guess I'm stuck. So anyway, there we go. Kind of a review, kind of an overview. Take it for what it is and use the data I've given you to help you in your decision which track saw you want. Oh, a little side note here. I think it's Milwaukee has just released a handheld circular saw with a track base on it, built in from the factory. It's designed to work on a variety of their tracks and a variety of other tracks. So that's another route. But anyhow, this is it. And until next time, make marvelous things out of wood.